shame roots deeply. Really love the colors of this piece and how it turned out. It was just about ready for varnish when that chaotic, unpredictable creative brain of mine decided it had to have actual roots on the piece, which makes sense. It looks great. There just is no arguing with that side of my brain. Once the idea is there, it just sort of has to come to fruition. A little bit like these videos for this exhibition. Apparently, I could have done an entire show on shame alone. I think that says a lot about shame and ADHD, particularly in myself and where I'm at in my journey with that. Probably a lot of people have heard the statistic that children with ADHD have received 20,000 corrective or negative comments by the time they're 10 years old. It's tough to pinpoint exactly where embarrassment and knowing I'd been bad turned into I was bad, I am bad, but it was certainly before 10. Shame creeps in very early, and it grabs a hold of your heart so deeply. My parents did the absolute best they could with the resources that were available at the time. But when I first was diagnosed, I didn't have the capacity to actually use the resources that were being offered to me. I was so behind developmentally in some ways that I had a hard time catching up, and I've had a hard time catching up for a lot of years. I had no capacity to change, like to really change, to understand why I need to change my problematic behaviors. I didn't have the capacity to make the changes for my really atrocious behavior at the time, even if I could fully understand why it was atrocious. I was either being good or being bad, black or white. I was being good or I was bad. Being a bad person in my brain set in pretty young as well. I could have good behavior, but I was bad. At this point in my life, and only now, just a little bit over a year from 40, am I finally starting to untangle reality from the shame that's just been choking it out. It took me a very long time to form the capacity to even learn the skills to manage my executive functions, my emotional control especially. And sometimes I wonder if it's gone too far. At what point did what I call socially acceptable behavior just become straight up masking? I find less things to torture myself over when I make fewer mistakes in public, so socially acceptable behavior, preferable generally. I come across as normal if I'm trying really hard, or more normal. I do really feel like I've lost a big part of myself to shame. I work and try so hard to be what I think is acceptable and what I've learned is acceptable for other people through life experience. it's easy for people to say that they understand that, oh, you're stimming, oh, you're very talkative because you have ADHD, but you can understand those things and not see the translation to life around you. So it can be very, very hard to let that mask go, to drop the shame of not being what people want you to be, or what I think people want me to be. Sometimes I really struggle to be able to list things that I like about myself. And I think it's because I don't spend a lot of time being myself entirely. Um, I've I've lost a big part of myself to masking, and part of me really wants to start tearing that back, to start reclaiming myself. And a part of me is afraid that if I do, people won't like me anymore. I want to be liked for myself, but I don't allow myself to be myself.